Welcome back, all you fabulous fans of fan fiction. We are the inglorious hosts of the Disinformed Podcast. Well, sorta. I'm Shane.
I'm Michael.
I'm Courtney.
I'm Steven.
Gonna need a few more of these before we get done with this tonight, I think. Melissa hates that, by the way. I used to do that to her all the time. Just the dead-eyed doll stare. Yeah, she was not a fan.
I can't imagine why.
She doesn't like many things I do. I'm amazed she's still with me. But what are you gonna do? So some of you may notice a distinct difference with the cast of the show for this particular venture, and we have elected to kind of create a pseudo pincer movement here for the podcast proper, insofar as I think John and thank you. Good Harry Potter reference there. We have elected to have Courtney and John be the devotees for some other fun side projects, which, they're very passionate about, and it would be important for them to be able to plumb the depths of on their own. And since Michael is such a fervent fan of fan fiction, as we have established over the course of many episodes, and Stephen and I are hams for hire, as is well documented.
No.
We are, I can and will be had, and sometimes I actually enjoy it, so depending upon how much I'm paid. And so here we are. The fan fiction will have a slew of special guest stars and new friendly fun and fresh washed faces that will be just paraded in front of you from time to time, and superfan Steven is definitely going to be one of those going forward, as he is a trained thespian.
Ooh.
Indeed. Alas, poor eunuch. Uric, sorry.
Freudian slip much?
I blew him, Horatio. I mean...
Oh, no. It keeps happening.
This is not intended for children.
Dang, but this is my favorite children's show on YouTube.
No.
We have a lot to do with making children, but very little with entertaining them. Apparently, my sultry tones have been the accompaniment for many an evening of fun and frivolity.
Ooh.
You're welcome, Jonah. All right, so the explanation for this, in case you are completely uninitiated, we host a weekly podcast, well, most of us do, where we delve into random esoteric topics and then we lie about them. It is entertaining and fun always. And occasionally we're nice to Michael. And when we're not, people threaten to boycott our shows, which is really great. But so now we have sort of deviated in that Michael is a big devotee of fan fiction. And on episode 25, he introduced us to My Immortal, the ghastliest of all fanfics. And so we elected to act it out ourselves. And then that was just the first in a bloody cavalcade of grammatical dysfunctions that we have perpetuated upon the general public here. And this is now the next in the long string of things to make Shane go wobbly about the mouth parts. And I'm very excited to say that this was brought to us by the research and diligent efforts of our good friend and researcher and now full-on podcast member, Superfan Steven here. So give us a little context as to how this popped up, Mr. Steven.
So, yes, as most people were aware, there was a giant ship that got stuck in the Suez Canal a couple of months ago. I believe it was February.
If only they'd read that book.
If only, yeah, that would have helped them out significantly. But regardless, as that whole thing was going down, some of my friends on Twitter posted a fan art they found of the ship anthropomorphized as a young lady in an inner tube that was stuck in the midst of the canal, and captioned it, "Well, we know the end of the world is near. The ship has been bimboed." So then in the comments, people linked, "Oh, look, and there are fanfics of this whole thing blowing up on fanfic websites like AO3 and whatnot." So after that, I went down the rabbit hole and read a couple of those. And I was like, oh, good God, this is hilarious and also awful. And I figured, well, this is prime rib for the disinformed peoples. So I threw it out to y'all.
Michael had a much easier time of transcribing this, and thankfully for me, this is certainly a great deal better written than most of the material that we find here. And so I'm very excited. But it also gives me the opportunity to use one of my absolute favorite all-time verbs, bivouacked. I am all infrequently allowed to use that in a sentence. And so now I'm very excited. Hopefully it pops up here. It's my favorite cogent simile here for the evening. But is everyone ready as we present to you, the lovely listeners, Enough for Now, which was penned by Perching Passerine. And I'm going to have that in notes below so you can see it because it needs to be spelled. But here we are. Everybody ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then.
Let's go.
Tuesday, March 23rd. Stop at Saturday. March 27th. Yes, thank you. You could have just told me that up front,
Yeah,
Michael.
my bad.
All right, here we are.
Oops.
We're very professional here, in case you were unaware. John usually does this, and so I suppose I should elect. We are doing this as a cold read. Only Stephen, of course, and Michael have seen this. Courtney and I are going in just doe-eyed youngsters with no clue as to what we're about to be beaten about the head and shoulders with. And so I can't speak for the quality of the performances, particularly by me, but, I'm working with some heavy hitters here, so I think we'll be in good hands. All right. Tuesday, March 23rd. Stop at Saturday.
The same bit. Oh my gosh.
It keeps happening.
Tuesday, March 23rd. Near the Ever Given's bow, a woman sat on the railing and swung her heels against the dull green metal of the hull. Her dark clothing looked almost sad against the colorful shipping containers behind her, arranged like enormous stacked Legos. I can see why you chose this, Stephen. She sang a song under her breath, but the words were mumbled and rushed, a personal distraction rather than a performance. Below her, a frog croaked. Her words died in her throat. She watched the frog as it leapt up the side of the hull and settled next to her. It turned its large yellow eyes on her and croaked again.
So what exactly is your plan here?
She asked it. Sorry. I had a moment where my brain went, what?
Stop at Saturday, March.
That's the one. Am I stopping yet? Wait, what day is it?
What year is it?
All right. She asked it. The frog croaked a final time, and then another woman shimmered into existence next to the first. She was barefoot, mud coating her legs up to the knees.
Sorry about this, Ever Given,
she said in accented Mandarin.
as I did.
Yeah, precisely.
Nothing personal, you understand.
My captain will never work again.
Ever Given said.
And you care? I thought you'd appreciate the vacation.
I feel the stress of my crew. It's hardly vacation for them.
The Suez Canal laughed, but she calmed quickly enough to give Ever Given something of a pitying eye.
Ships, always so loyal to their humans.
We were made by them.
Ever Given said. She looked out at the long blue canal where ships were caught on either side of her too broad hull. It had only been a few hours since she'd run aground. The buzz of people rushing to run damage control or to just complain hadn't slowed.
You've had your fun. Now let me go.
It's not about fun.
Suez said. The wind picked up and blew Ever Given's hair into her eyes, but she stayed still and silent as stone. Suez scowled.
It's about making the humans' lives harder. Maybe then they'll leave me alone.
Ever Given released a small puff of air that wasn't quite a scoff. She shifted away and pivoted on the railing so that her legs hung toward the deck instead of the water.
And if you make my life harder too?
Why should I care about you?
Wednesday, March 24th. Stop. The excavator was small but persistent, which Ever Given supposed was just like the humans who had made it. Every time it raised its arm out of the watery pit around her bow, a sight she had full access to sitting by the water about 30 meters to the north, mud slid down both sides of the scoop and hit the water with a slap. Sometimes she doubted they were even progressing. She should have been well on her way to Rotterdam by now. Rotterdam, while not exciting, was certainly better than this dusty place, where sand stretched out endlessly beyond the rocks of the canal's bank. The water below her feet shifted. She saw the silver flash of a fish, and a moment later Suez's head slid out of the water, her long black hair splaying out over her back. She grinned at Ever Given, sharp, then turned her head to watch the workers in their yellow vests.
How are you doing?
She said.
They think it may take them weeks to free me.
Yes, I know.
Suez said.
I hear everyone on the canal and learn all of their gossip. I wonder if the Cape of Good Hope knows to expect extra visitors.
I've never met him personally, but if you're anything to go by...
Suez laughed and turned over, tipping her head back so that she could look at Ever Given while her hair got tangled in the rocks just under the waterline.
A cape is hardly a good comparison anyway. Have you ever been through the Panama Canal?
I'm too large for that.
And so I have you all to myself then, huh?
Suez's head tipped to look at Ever Given's hull. Her eyes went half-lidded.
The humans will never go away, even if you want them to.
Ever Given said after a moment. She shifted back from the water.
Do you know how valuable you are to them?
I'll make them.
Suez said.
When they free you, I'll catch another ship or find a way to start a war. Did you know they stopped using me for years after a war once?
No.
They did.
And you were pleased by that?
To almost be free for 8 whole years, like nature always is, open to all but owned by no one.
Suez flipped back onto her stomach and kicked a leg up. Water dripped down the curve of her ankle.
Wouldn't you want that?
Don't you want to be useful?
Ever Given asked.
Relied upon?
I'm useful to myself. Isn't that enough?
Ever Given hummed a lukewarm response, and Suez laid her head on the rocks at Ever Given's feet. They said nothing more, but together watched the excavator dig into the mud once again. Friday, March 26th.
How lonely are you that you keep bothering me?
Ever Given said. She stood against the railing of the ship, watching her crew move about to haul cargo off of her, so that she would be lighter and easier to float. They, of course, did not notice her, nor did they notice the butterfly that had landed in her hair. With a flap of blue wings, the butterfly was gone, and Suez stood next to her, laughing.
Ships are so utterly interesting, so devoted to their cause.
I was made for it.
Ever Given said.
You were made for a purpose too.
I'm nature and nothing else.
Suez said, so quick and hard that Ever Given almost turned to look at her.
Whatever they have turned me into, it's not what I'm supposed to be.
So you have always been here, with the Mediterranean and the Red Seas as your companions? You're really as old as them?
Ever Given finally looked at Suez, but she had turned away. Ever Given watched her fingers press hard against the metal of the railing. The pressure drained the blood and turned the brown of her skin almost white.
No, but old enough.
Tell me your oldest memory, Ever Given wanted to say. The words were on the tip of her tongue, but she swallowed them down before they escaped. When the moment had passed, she wasn't sure why she hadn't spoken them.
Old enough to know that I want freedom.
Suez said, oblivious to Ever Given's thoughts. She had released her fingers from the railing, and Ever Given watched as they turned brown again. When she turned back, Ever Given noticed her eyes for the first time. Black, so dark that the iris and pupil shaded into each other.
I will serve no master, not like you ships.
She leaned in, and she smelled like seawater and metal.
The humans may use me if they like, but they shouldn't think they've tamed me.
You don't think trapping me will accomplish anything in the long term?
Ever Given realized aloud.
You just wanna-
Suez's...
Sorry.
Ever Given realized aloud. Suez's eyes gleamed.
You just want to assert your will.
As all the free spirits of nature do.
Suez said.
Have you never wanted that? You're a ship who can go anywhere under the stars. Have you never wondered what it would be like to do only what your heart desired?
When Suez finally bridged the gap between them, Ever Given did not turn away from the kiss. She even returned it, barely aware of the answer she was giving. But when Suez pulled away after only a moment, she followed her lead again and stepped back too. Ever Given blinked at Suez, and Suez blinked back.
Well,
Suez said. Ever Given paused, then answered.
A ship does not have a heart.
Suez's eyes dimmed.
I see.
She said, and began to say more, but Ever Given stopped her.
I'm a ship who doesn't have a heart, but still wants to roam under the stars. I will not leave my captain for you. Is that enough?
Suez considered her for a long moment.
Yes, but am I enough for you since I trapped you, even if only for a short time?
Enough for now. I don't understand you at all, but I want to.
Suez laughed and reached forward and drew Ever Given up to stand on the railing. And then, together, they tumbled off into the water. And that, friends and love-struck listeners, is the end of our first installment of Enough for Now, the tale of love at the Suez Canal. Well, I don't know about y'all. Whew.
I'm pretty hot and bothered myself.
Someone turned on the
Spicy.
faucet. Noosh. There's somebody making out over this story right now. Guaranteed. Mhm. Well, I am very much looking forward to part 2, and I can't wait to see how far below the belt this goes.
Or how far below the high tide mark it goes.
We already hit the
Ooh.
spaloosh. Diver down. Hopefully I don't drown. But anywho, thank you all for being here. We immensely appreciate it, and I'm having a lot of fun, so I hope you are as well. But for this wonderfully wet installment of Love on the High Tides, I am Shane.
I'm Michael.
I'm Courtney.
I'm Steven.
And we will see you next time that the tide rolls in. Rolling in deep.